in the vast expanse of the galaxy where 1,000 civilizations bow before the Zalarian Empire's might, where warriors are bred in laboratories and enhanced with cybernetic implants, where the strongest fighters are engineered from birth to be perfect killing machines. One human stands in the arena with nothing but flesh, bone, and an unbreakable spirit. Princess Zarathel has witnessed the galaxy's greatest champions fall before her father's throne. She has seen bio-enhanced Krillian berserkers, quantum-powered Vorthan assassins, and hive-minded Zaraki death squads reduced to atoms. Nothing surprises her anymore. Until today, until she sees what happens when you corner a species that refuses to quit, that finds strength in weakness, that turns desperation into victory. Until she witnesses the impossible sight of a baseline human, no enhancements, no weapons, no armor, doing something that will shatter everything she thought she knew about power, about strength, about what it truly means to fight. What she sees will not just leave her speechless, it will change the fate of the galaxy forever. The crystalline spires of the Zalarian capital stretch toward the purple sky like frozen lightning, each tower a testament to an empire that had conquered half the known galaxy. Within the largest spire, the grand arena hummed with the excitement of 10,000 spectators from dozens of worlds, their various forms of cheering creating a symphony of alien sounds. Princess Zarathel sat in the royal box, her elegant fingers drumming against the polished obsidian armrest of her throne. Her skin shimmered with the natural bioluminescence of her people, patterns of silver and blue dancing across her features in slow, hypnotic waves. At 23 standard cycles, she was considered young for Zalarian nobility, but her eyes held the weight of someone who had seen too much death. "Another champion fights for our entertainment today, daughter," Emperor Morthek said without looking at her. His massive frame dwarfed even the ornate throne he occupied, cybernetic implants glowing softly beneath his scaled skin. "A human, they tell me." Zarathel suppressed a sigh. Humans were nothing new to the arena. They were a recent addition to the Empire's collection of species, their homeworld having been conquered only 50 cycles ago. Most human fighters lasted mere minutes against the arena's enhanced warriors before being torn apart for the crowd's amusement. "Which enhancement protocols did they use on this one?" she asked, her voice carrying the melodic quality of her race. "Strength amplification? Neural acceleration? Combat reflex boosting?" The Emperor's laugh was like grinding metal. "None." That caught her attention. Zarathel turned to study her father's expression, searching for the jest she was certain must be there. "None? Father, you cannot be serious. An unenhanced human against the blood maw? That's not entertainment. That's execution." "Perhaps," Mortak said, his 4 eyes glittering with dark amusement, "or perhaps we shall witness something interesting." The human requested to fight without enhancements. Demanded it, actually. In the arena below, the massive gates began to grind open. From the eastern tunnel emerged the Bloodmaw, a creature that had never known defeat in its 12 cycles of fighting. Standing 4 meters tall on 6 legs, its exoskeleton gleamed like black metal under the arena's lights. Razor-sharp mandibles clicked together in anticipation, and the crowd roared its approval. The Bloodmaw had killed 47 opponents, each death more spectacular than the last. From the western tunnel came the human. Zarathel leaned forward in her seat, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to display surprise. The human was ordinary, terrifyingly ordinary. No towering height, no bulging muscles enhanced by genetic manipulation, no cybernetic limbs gleaming with technological superiority. He stood barely 2 meters tall, his skin the unremarkable brown of his species, wearing nothing but simple arena clothes and carrying no weapons. "What is his name?" she asked. Marcus Chen, one of the Emperor's advisors, replied, consulting his datapad. "Captured during the siege of Terra's outer colonies, age 28 standard years. No military training of note, no combat enhancements, no genetic modifications. He was a The advisor paused, as if the words were difficult to speak. A schoolteacher, the crowd's roar shifted to confusion as they took in the sight of the human. This wasn't what they had come to see. Where was the spectacle? Where was the enhanced warrior who might at least provide a few minutes of entertainment before his inevitable death? Marcus Chen walked to the center of the arena with steady steps, seemingly unbothered by the creature that could tear him apart with a single swipe of its claws. He looked up at the royal box, and for a moment his eyes met Zaratel's. There was no fear there, no desperation, just a calm determination that made her skin patterns flicker with unease. The arena's announcer, a floating crystalline entity that communicated through harmonics, began the traditional pre-fight ceremony. The blood maw reared up on its hind legs, displaying its full terrifying height while its mandibles spread wide, revealing rows of serrated teeth. Acidic saliva dripped onto the arena floor, hissing as it ate through the metal. Marcus Chen removed his shirt. The crowd fell silent. Across the human's torso, arms, and back were scars. Not the clean lines left by medical procedures or the symmetric patterns of ritual scarification common among warrior cultures. These were the chaotic, ugly marks of survival. Burns, cuts, punctures, and tears covered his body in a map of violence survived. Each scar told a story of pain endured and overcome. By the void, Zarathel whispered. What happened to him? The conquest of his world was thorough, the advisor said quietly. His settlement was attacked. He defended a school full of children for 3 days against our forces using improvised weapons and traps. When we finally breached the defenses, we found him still standing over 42 young humans, all of whom survived. The princess felt something cold settle in her stomach. She had always known the Empire's conquests were brutal, but she had never been forced to confront the reality of what that brutality meant for individuals. This human had been a teacher, someone whose life was dedicated to nurturing young minds, and war had carved him into something else entirely. The ceremonial bell chimed, signaling the beginning of the fight. The blood maw charged immediately, its 6 legs carrying its massive bulk across the arena floor with frightening speed. Most fighters would have tried to dodge, to run, to put distance between themselves and death. Marcus Chen took 3 steps forward and went to one knee. The crowd gasped. Was the human surrendering already? But no, he wasn't kneeling in defeat. He was kneeling to change his center of gravity. The blood maw's charge carried it over him, its belly exposed for a fraction of a second. Marcus drove his fist upward with everything he had, striking the creature's softer underside. It should have been like punching a starship hull. The blood maw's exoskeleton was designed to withstand plasma rifle blasts. The creature screamed. Not roared, not growled, screamed. It staggered, spinning to face the human again, but something was wrong. Green fluid leaked from where Marcus had struck, and one of its legs wasn't bearing weight properly. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. No one had ever made the blood maw bleed on the first exchange. Impossible, the Emperor said, his voice tight with disbelief. Bioscans show no enhancement in the human. How did he penetrate the exoskeleton? Zarathel was studying Marcus carefully. He was breathing hard, but still standing, still focused. His hand was bleeding where he had struck the creature, but he seemed unconcerned by the injury. More importantly, he was moving differently now. Where before he had walked with the casual gait of a civilian, now every step was calculated, every muscle prepared for violence. The blood maw circled him warily, no longer underestimating its opponent. It feinted left, then right, testing the human's reactions. Marcus turned with it, always keeping his body positioned to face the creature's center mass, never allowing himself to be flanked. He's studying it, Zaratul said suddenly. Look at his eyes. He's not fighting defensively. He's learning. The blood maw lunged again. this time leading with its mandibles in a scissoring attack that had decapitated dozens of previous opponents. Marcus twisted sideways, the razor edges passing mere centimeters from his skin. As the creature's momentum carried it past him, he grabbed one of the mandibles with both hands. What happened next would be burned into the memory of everyone present. Instead of trying to break or bend the chitinous structure, Marcus did something that seemed impossibly stupid. He held on. The blood maw's head whipped back and forth, trying to shake him loose, but the human's grip was unbreakable. His feet dragged across the arena floor, his body was flung around like a doll, but he didn't let go. The creature reared up on its hind legs, trying to slam the human into the ground. Marcus used the momentum, swinging his legs up and wrapping them around the base of the mandible. Now he was hanging horizontally from the blood maw's jaw, his full weight creating leverage the creature had never experienced before. The mandible began to bend. The crowd was on its feet now, screaming in languages from across the galaxy. The blood maw thrashed wildly, slamming itself against the arena walls in an attempt to dislodge the human. But Marcus held on, his muscles straining, his scarred body absorbing impact after impact. With a wet crack that echoed through the arena, the mandible snapped. The blood maw's scream of pain was deafening. Green fluid sprayed across the arena floor as the creature staggered backward, its natural weapon hanging uselessly. But Marcus wasn't done. As the creature reeled from its injury, he rolled beneath it and grabbed one of its middle legs. "He's going for the joints," Zarathel said, her voice filled with something that might have been awe. "He's targeting the weak points." "But how can he know where they are?" the Emperor demanded. "He's never seen this species before." Marcus wrapped his arms around the leg just above where it joined the body, in the small gap where the exoskeleton had to flex to allow movement. His shoulder muscles bulged as he applied pressure, using his entire body as a lever. The creature tried to shake him off, but it was already off balance from its missing mandible. Another crack. Another scream. The leg came free in Marcus's hands, leaving the blood maw unable to support its own weight properly. It crashed to the arena floor, flailing wildly with its remaining limbs, but Marcus was already moving, circling to the creature's blind side, staying out of reach of its desperate attacks. The crowd had gone silent again. This wasn't possible. And an enhanced human from a primitive world was systematically dismantling the arena's greatest champion using nothing but knowledge of anatomy and an apparently unlimited tolerance for pain. Marcus grabbed another leg, then another. Each time he found the weak spot where exoskeleton met joint. Each time he applied leverage and pressure until something gave way. The blood maw's struggles grew weaker with each dismemberment, its movements less coordinated. "Stop this," Zarathal said suddenly. "Father, stop this fight." "Why?" The Emperor's voice was cold. "The human is winning. Isn't this what entertainment is supposed to be? The unexpected?" "This isn't entertainment anymore," she replied, unable to look away from the arena. "This is something else." Marcus stood over the blood maw's writhing form, breathing heavily. His body was covered in cuts, bruises, and the creature's acidic blood, but he was still standing, still fighting. The blood maw, reduced to its torso and two remaining legs, could no longer pose a significant threat. But instead of delivering a killing blow, Marcus stepped back. He looked up at the royal box again, his eyes finding the princess. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly through the arena's acoustics. "I yield." The crowd exploded in confusion. Yield? The human had won. The blood maw was defeated, helpless. Why would he surrender victory? "I came here to prove a point," Marcus said, his words directed at the royal box. "Not to murder a creature that was only doing what it was trained to do. I yield the match, but I keep my life. That was the agreement." Emperor Morthak stood slowly, his four eyes fixed on the human below. "You had victory in your grasp. Why throw it away? Because, Marcus said, wiping green blood from his face, strength isn't about how much you can destroy. It's about knowing when to stop. The arena fell silent. In that silence, Zaratel felt something shift inside her chest, a feeling she couldn't name. This human, this teacher turned warrior by necessity, had just done something unprecedented in the Empire's history. He had shown mercy to an enemy, and in doing so, he had revealed something about humanity that no amount of conquest or study could have uncovered. They weren't just another species to be catalogued and controlled. They were something the Empire had never encountered before. They were something that couldn't be broken. The silence stretched on, broken only by the Bloodmaw's labored breathing. Marcus Chen stood in the center of the arena, battered but unbroken, waiting for judgment. And for the first time in her life, Princess Zaratel had no idea what that judgment should be. The medical bay beneath the arena hummed with activity as bioengineers worked to save the Bloodmaw's life. The creature that had been the Empire's most feared gladiator now lay sedated on a reinforced medical platform, its severed limbs being reattached with quantum surgical precision. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present that the human who had dismantled it was the same one who had insisted on its medical treatment. Princess Zaratel stood in the observation gallery, watching the procedure through reinforced transparent aluminum. Her bioluminescent patterns had been cycling through colors of confusion and curiosity for the past hour, something that hadn't gone unnoticed by her personal guards. "Your Highness," Captain Vextar said carefully, his reptilian features arranged in what might have been concern, "the Emperor wishes to speak with you about the human's fate." "What fate?" she asked without turning away from the medical bay. "He won the match. By imperial law, he should be granted his freedom. Technically, Your Highness, he yielded. The match was declared a draw." Zaratel finally turned to face her captain. Vextar had served her family for 30 cycles, and she had never seen him look so uncertain. "You were there, Captain. You saw what I saw. That human defeated the Bloodmaw completely. His yield was an act of mercy, not surrender." "Yes, Your Highness, but... My father doesn't know what to do with mercy," she finished. "Neither do I." The admission hung in the air between them. In the Zalarian Empire, mercy was seen as weakness. Conquered peoples were given two choices: serve or die. Warriors fought until death or victory. The concept of choosing to spare a defeated enemy was so foreign to imperial thinking that there were no laws, no precedents, no protocols to deal with it. A soft chime announced an incoming message. Vextar activated his communication device, listened briefly, then bowed. "Your Highness, the Emperor commands your presence in the Crimson Chamber immediately." The Crimson Chamber was where decisions of life and death were made. Zarathel had witnessed dozens of such judgments over the years, had even participated in several as part of her education in imperial justice. But tonight felt different. The chamber itself was a study in intimidation. Black stone walls rose 50 meters to a domed ceiling that displayed a real-time view of the conquered worlds of the Empire. Each planet slowly rotated in its place, a reminder of the Empire's vast power. At the center of the room stood a single chair, designed to make whoever sat in it feel small and exposed. Emperor Morthak paced behind his throne, his cybernetic implants casting shifting shadows on the walls. Several high-ranking officials stood at attention around the room's perimeter, including General Korthax, the Empire's supreme military commander, and Chief Inquisitor Salandra, whose specialty was extracting information from unwilling subjects. "Daughter," the Emperor said without preamble, "we have a problem." "The human?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "The human," he confirmed. "In the 6 hours since his match, we have received 17,000 requests to purchase him for private armies. 43 worlds have offered to trade entire star systems for his services. The Krillian supremacy has threatened war if we don't sell him to them exclusively. Zaratel felt her stomach drop. She should have anticipated this. In an empire built on military might, a warrior who could defeat the Blood Maw without enhancements would be worth more than entire fleets. "And what does the human say about these offers?" she asked. General Korthak stepped forward, his insectoid features clicking in agitation. "He refuses to speak to anyone except you, Your Highness. He claims he has something important to discuss with the princess who understands honor." The words sent an unexpected warm pulse through her bioluminescent patterns. "He asked for me specifically?" "By name," the general confirmed. "He also requested that his conversation with you be private." "Absolutely not," Chief Inquisitor Silandra interjected, her voice carrying the cold authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "The human could be dangerous. His defeat of the Blood Maw proves he possesses unknown capabilities. A private meeting would be granted," Emperor Morthak interrupted. "My daughter is not some helpless civilian. She is a trained warrior and the heir to the imperial throne. If the human wished her harm, he had ample opportunity to demonstrate hostile intent in the arena." Silandra's pale features tightened with displeasure, but she bowed in acknowledgement. "As you command, Your Majesty. However, I strongly recommend that guards remain within communication range." "Agreed," the Emperor said, then turned his attention back to Zarathel. "Daughter, I want you to determine what makes this human so different from the others we have encountered. His species showed average combat capabilities during the conquest. Nothing suggested they possessed the ability to defeat our engineered gladiators. And if I discover something significant, then we decide whether humanity represents an opportunity or a threat that needs to be eliminated." The weight of those words settled on Zarathel's shoulders. Her conversation with Marcus Chen wouldn't just determine his fate, but potentially the fate of his entire species. If she reported that humans possess some hidden warrior capability, the Empire would likely order the sterilization of Earth and all human colonies to prevent the emergence of a potential rival military power. 20 minutes later, she stood outside the reinforced door of Marcus's detention cell. Unlike the brutal cages used for most prisoners, this was more like a Spartan but comfortable apartment. The Empire had learned that valuable assets performed better when treated with a degree of dignity. The door slid open silently. Marcus Chen sat at a small table, slowly eating from a bowl of nutrient paste. He had been provided with fresh clothing and his wounds had been treated, but the scars covering his body remained visible through the thin fabric of his shirt. When he looked up at her, his eyes held the same calm determination she had seen in the arena. "Your Highness," he said, rising to give a small bow that somehow managed to be respectful without being servile. "Please, sit," she said, surprised by her own nervousness. "I understand you wish to speak with me." "Thank you for coming." Marcus gestured to the chair across from him. "I know this is unusual. I'm sure your advisors weren't happy about it." Zaratel settled into the chair, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to display formal neutrality. "You're correct. They consider you potentially dangerous." Am I? The directness of the question caught her off guard. What do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I asked," Marcus said, his tone conversational but serious. "Do you think I'm dangerous?" She studied his face, searching for deception or hidden meaning. "You defeated the Blood Maw. You dismantled a creature that has killed 47 opponents, using nothing but anatomical knowledge and determination. How could you not be dangerous?" "Because dangerous implies intent to harm," Marcus replied. "I didn't want to hurt that creature. I did what I had to do to survive, and then I stopped. The question isn't whether I can be dangerous, Your Highness. The question is whether I choose to be. And that choice is what you wanted to discuss?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, and for the first time she saw exhaustion in his eyes. Not physical tiredness, but the deep weariness of someone who had been forced to carry too heavy a burden for too long. "Princess, may I ask you a personal question? Do you know how your empire's conquest of my world actually happened?" The shift in topic made her patterns flicker with uncertainty. "I know what the official report stated. A standard pacification operation, minimal resistance, quick surrender, standard casualties." "Standard casualties," Marcus repeated softly. "Do you know what that means in practical terms?" She began, then stopped. The truth was, she had never really thought about it. Casualty figures were just numbers in reports, abstractions that had no real meaning beyond their impact on resource allocation and strategic planning. "It means that in the city where I taught, 60,000 civilians died in the first day," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the weight of the words. Most of them had never held a weapon in their lives. They died because their homes were built over strategic mineral deposits, and it was more efficient to level entire districts than to extract the resources around inhabited areas. Zaratel felt her patterns shift toward colors of distress. She had known intellectually that conquest involved death, but she had never been confronted with the human cost of imperial policy. "The school where I worked was designated as a non-essential structure," Marcus continued. "That meant it was scheduled for demolition on day 3 of the operation, except there were still 412 children inside, plus 37 teachers and staff members. The youngest was 4 years old. What did you do?" "What any teacher would do," he said simply. "I tried to protect my students. The reports mentioned a defensive action that delayed our forces for 3 days. Marcus nodded. "I had 47 other adults with me, janitors, cafeteria workers, a few parents who had come looking for their children. None of us were soldiers. We had maintenance tools, kitchen knives, a few hunting rifles. Against your military. How did you hold out for 3 days?" For the first time, Marcus smiled, though there was no humor in it. "Fear, desperation, and a very detailed knowledge of the school's heating, ventilation, and electrical systems. When you're fighting for children's lives, you find ways to make anything into a weapon. But you survived. The children survived. Most of the other adults didn't." His voice remained steady, but Zaratel could see the cost of those memories in his eyes. "When your forces finally broke through our last barricade, I was standing alone in the cafeteria with a broken table leg in my hands, facing down a squad of armored soldiers. What happened then?" Your commander looked around at what we had built. Improvised weapons, defensive positions made from desks and chairs, booby traps constructed from cleaning supplies and school equipment. Then he looked at me, covered in blood and still standing, and he asked me a question. "What question?" He asked if I was a soldier. Marcus's smile returned, and this time it held a trace of genuine amusement. When I told him I was a third-grade teacher, he laughed, said he had fought trained warriors who gave up faster than I did. Zaratel's patterns were cycling through colors she rarely displayed, emotions she couldn't quite name. "Is that why you're here? Because their commander was impressed?" He recommended me for the gladiatorial program instead of standard prisoner processing. Said anyone who could turn a elementary school into a fortress might be entertaining in the arena. Marcus leaned forward, his expression growing serious. "But that's not why I wanted to talk to you." "Then why?" "Because I need you to understand what you saw today. What I did to the blood maw, that wasn't some special human ability. That wasn't genetic enhancement or hidden training or a secret warrior tradition. Then what was it? It was a third-grade teacher who had to figure out how to kill 37 soldiers to save 400 children. Marcus's voice carried a weight that made Zarathol's pattern still completely. "Every human in your empire has a story like mine. Your Highness, maybe not as extreme, but similar. Your conquest didn't just take our world. It took our normal lives and turned us all into survivors. I don't understand." "You created us," Marcus said simply. Every human who lived through your invasion is now carrying the knowledge of how to turn everyday objects into weapons, how to find weak points in armor, how to keep fighting when logic says you should surrender. You didn't conquer a planet of farmers and teachers and shopkeepers. You forged a planet of people who know how to survive impossible odds. The implications of his words hit her like a physical blow. You're saying that our conquest created a warrior class. I'm saying your conquest revealed something that was always there, Marcus corrected. Humans don't give up. We don't surrender. We adapt, we learn, and we keep fighting until we win or we die. You saw that today. I had never encountered anything like the blood maw before, but I studied it, found its weaknesses, and exploited them. But you yielded. Because I had made my point. I wasn't fighting the blood maw, Your Highness. I was fighting the idea that humans are weak, that we're just another conquered species to be used and discarded. I was fighting for the right to be seen as more than entertainment. Zarathel sat in silence for a long moment, processing what she had heard. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to make a choice," Marcus said. "Your empire can continue treating humans as disposable assets, slaves to be bought and sold. If you do that, you'll have a species of survivors who will spend every day planning how to escape, how to sabotage, how to turn whatever they can find into weapons against you. And the alternative? As equals. Give us a reason to build something together instead of tearing down what you've created. You're asking me to change the fundamental nature of the empire. I'm asking you to evolve it," Marcus corrected. "Your empire conquered through force, and that worked when you were fighting civilizations that would surrender when beaten. But humans don't surrender, Your Highness. We just get more creative. And if I refuse? If I recommend that Earth be sterilized to prevent future resistance?" Marcus met her gaze steadily. "Then you'll have proven that the Empire is exactly what I thought it was. A civilization so afraid of strength it can't recognize it when it offers partnership." The conversation ended in silence. Zarathel left the detention cell with her mind racing, her bioluminescent patterns cycling through colors of confusion, fear, and something that might have been hope. She had come looking for answers about human capabilities. Instead, she had found questions about everything she believed. The emergency session of the Imperial High Council convened at dawn when the capital's twin suns cast long shadows across the crystalline towers. Princess Zarathel had not slept. She had spent the night in her private chambers, staring out at the city below while her conversation with Marcus Chen replayed endlessly in her mind. Now she sat at the curved table in the council chamber, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Each represented a different aspect of the Empire's vast military and administrative machine, and each had their own opinion about what should be done with the human problem. Emperor Morthak sat at the head of the table, his cybernetic implants casting a soft blue glow in the chamber's subdued lighting. "We are here to determine the fate of the human-designated Marcus Chen, and, by extension, the future classification of his species within the Empire. Daughter, you have spent the most time studying this individual. Present your analysis." Zaratel's bioluminescent patterns shifted to display formal composure, though internally she felt anything but composed. Every word she spoke would be weighed and analyzed by the Empire's most strategic minds. The wrong phrasing could doom humanity to extinction. "Honored council members," she began, her voice carrying the melodic authority of her bloodline, "I have conducted extensive observation and direct interview with the human subject. My findings challenge several of our assumptions about this species." "Get to the point," General Korthot interrupted, his insectoid mandibles clicking with impatience. "Is this human an anomaly, or do his capabilities represent a broader threat?" "That," Zarathal said carefully, "depends on how we define threat." Chief Inquisitor Silandra leaned forward, her pale features sharp with interest. Explain. Marcus Chen defeated the Blood Maw using tactical analysis and improvised techniques. He had no prior exposure to this species, no special training in combat against chitinous organisms, and no genetic enhancements, yet within minutes of engagement he had identified the creature's weak points and developed a strategy to exploit them. This suggests advanced pattern recognition capabilities, observed Science Director Velmoth. A floating crystalline entity whose communications resonated through harmonic frequencies. Could this be evidence of hidden technological augmentation? Detailed bioscans confirm that Marcus Chen is completely unenhanced. His capabilities are entirely biological and learned. Then how do you explain his performance? Demanded Fleet Admiral Tyrannost, whose aquatic species had contributed some of the Empire's most effective void warfare tactics. My people have spent centuries developing combat analysis protocols. This human achieved similar results in minutes. Zarathal took a breath, knowing that her next words would reshape the Council's understanding of humanity forever. Marcus Chen is a teacher. His profession for over a decade was educating young humans in various subjects, including problem-solving, analytical thinking, and adaptive learning. What we witnessed in the arena was not warrior training, it was pedagogical methodology applied to survival. The silence that followed was profound. Several council members exchanged glances that spoke volumes about their confusion. You are suggesting, Chief Inquisitor Salandra said slowly, that a human educator is inherently more dangerous than our trained gladiators. I am suggesting that we fundamentally misunderstood what we were conquering, Zarathal replied. We classified humans as a pre-industrial species with limited military capabilities. What we failed to recognize was that their entire society is built around knowledge transfer, adaptation, and creative problem-solving. Emperor Morthak's 4 eyes focused on his daughter with laser intensity. Elaborate. Human children spend approximately 16 years in formal educational systems designed to teach them how to analyze problems, synthesize information from multiple sources, and develop innovative solutions under pressure. This is not military training, but the cognitive skills involved are identical to advanced tactical thinking. You're saying their entire population has been trained as potential strategists? General Korthak's mandibles had stopped clicking. Even his body language conveyed focused attention. Unintentionally, yes. And our conquest process has created additional selection pressure. Zarathel's patterns shifted to display grim certainty. Every human who survived the invasion had to rapidly adapt to impossible circumstances. They learned to improvise weapons, develop survival strategies, and resist trained military forces using nothing but creativity and determination. Science Director Velmoth's crystalline form pulsed with deeper harmonics. This presents a significant paradigm shift in our threat assessment models. If the entire human population possesses latent tactical capabilities, then we are not managing a conquered species, Fleet Admiral Turnost finished. We are managing a distributed resistance network that happens to be temporarily contained. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The Empire had built its expansion on a simple principle: overwhelm enemy military forces, occupy strategic positions, and administer the civilian population as a resource. It had never encountered a species where the distinction between military and civilian was essentially meaningless. "What are your recommendations, daughter?" the Emperor asked. This was the moment Zarathel had been preparing for all night. Her next words would either open a new chapter in imperial history or sign humanity's death warrant. "We have 3 options," she said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to propose. "First, we can attempt complete extermination of the human species. This would require sterilizing Earth and all human colonies, followed by systematic execution of every human currently within the Empire. Resource-intensive but achievable. General Korthax observed clinically. Estimated time frame? 18 months for complete sterilization, Fleet Admiral Ternost replied without hesitation. However, this option carries significant risks. Human distribution throughout the Empire means we would be destroying valuable technical expertise and labor capacity. More importantly, Zarthel continued, it would send a message to all conquered species that the Empire considers intelligence and adaptability to be capital crimes. This could trigger coordinated resistance movements across multiple worlds. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The Empire's stability depended on the conquered species believing that cooperation was preferable to resistance. What is the second option? Chief Inquisitor Salandra asked. Maintain the current system, but implement additional restrictions. Enhanced surveillance, cognitive suppression protocols, limited access to information and tools that could be weaponized. Essentially, make them too stupid to be dangerous, Science Director Velmoth translated. Correct. However, this approach has its own problems. Human economic productivity is already above average for conquered species. Reducing their cognitive capabilities would significantly impact their value as assets. And the third option? The Emperor inquired, though his tone suggested he already suspected what his daughter would propose. Integration. The word landed like a photon torpedo in the chamber's tense atmosphere. Explain, the Emperor commanded, his voice dangerously quiet. We stop treating humans as a conquered species and start treating them as potential partners. We offer them a path to full citizenship, including military service, administrative positions, and representation in imperial government. Absolutely not, General Korthax snapped, his entire exoskeleton bristling with agitation. The Empire does not negotiate with conquered territories. We rule through strength, not accommodation. The Empire rules through effective resource management, Zarathel countered. And we are currently wasting our most valuable resource by treating it as a liability. How so? Fleet Admiral Ternost asked, his aquatic features displaying curiosity despite his obvious skeptic. Marcus Chen neutralized the blood maw using improvised tactics and anatomical analysis. Imagine what he could accomplish with proper training and equipment. Imagine what 1,000 humans like him could accomplish as part of our military forces. You want to arm the very people who have every reason to hate us? Chief Inquisitor Salandra's voice carried incredulous disbelief. I want to give them a reason to fight with us instead of against us, Zarathel replied. Currently, every human in the Empire is a potential saboteur because they have nothing to lose and everything to gain from our downfall. But if we offer them citizenship, advancement opportunities, and a stake in the Empire's success, they become invested in maintaining the system instead of destroying it. Science Director Velmoth finished, his harmonics indicating rapid processing of the concept. Precisely. And consider the military advantages. Human tactical flexibility, combined with our technology and resources, could create combined units unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. Emperor Morthak had remained silent throughout this exchange, his cybernetic implants processing vast amounts of data as he weighed the options. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. You are proposing to fundamentally alter the structure of the Empire, to grant conquered peoples a path to equality rather than permanent subjugation. The precedent alone could transform us from a conquest-based empire to an integration-based confederation, Zarathel said, completing her father's thought. Yes, it's unprecedented. But so is the situation we face with humanity, and if they refuse our offer of integration, if they use any freedoms we grant them to organize resistance, then we will have learned something valuable about the limits of our approach, and we can reconsider the extermination option. The Emperor stood, his massive frame casting shadows across the table. This council will recess for 1 hour while I consider these recommendations. When we reconvene, I will announce my decision." As the council members filed out of the chamber, Zaratel remained seated, her bioluminescent patterns cycling through colors of anxiety and hope. She had presented the best case she could for humanity's survival, but the decision was no longer hers to make. In 1 hour, the Emperor would choose the future of an entire species. And Zarathal realized that somewhere in the process of trying to save humanity, she had begun to question everything she believed about the Empire itself. The seeds Marcus Chen had planted with his words about evolution and partnership had taken root in her mind. Win or lose, there would be no going back to the simple certainties of imperial conquest. Change was coming to the Zalarian Empire. The only question was whether it would be evolution or revolution,